Hello everyone and welcome to a brand new video. Today we are here with part 41 of our F1 2021 MyTeam career mode here for the Spanish Grand Prix at Circuit de Barcelona, Catalonia. Last time out we were in Portugal where we finished in 4th after making that great comeback after having an accident about halfway through the race. So if you haven't seen that, make sure to go check it out. We're currently sitting 2nd in the standings behind Charles Leclerc, who is absolutely dominant at the moment. We're going to have to really pull out something special if we want to beat him and even just pull that gap a little bit closer. You can see in terms of the car performance chart, everyone's sort of flatlined coming into this one, no upgrades coming in, so we have the exact same cars that we had in Portugal. So yeah, luckily we still have the fastest car out of everyone, and hopefully we can sort of try and take a bit of benefit out of it. We don't have any engine penalties this time around, so yeah, starting towards the front of the grid luckily this time, so hopefully we can try and challenge Charles for a race win this time, and hopefully Ricciardo can try and get some decent points as well, because as I've been saying, he's sort of been letting the team down a little bit, and when it gets to mid-season, we're going to have to think about replacing him possibly, because we do want to win this Constructors. So let's have a look at how we shook up in qualifying.
Off the back of a fantastic qualifying session, it's time to see how our starting grid looks for today's race. Charles Leclerc lines up on pole position, and Benjamin completes the front row. Moving on to the rest of the grid, we have Sainz, Hamilton, Max Verstappen and Perez, Vettel, Ricciardo, Norris and Guan Yu Zhou, Fernando Alonso, Gasly, Esteban Ocon and Tsunoda, Russell, Stroll, Antonio Giovinazzi and Nobuharu Matsushita, Mazepin, Latifi, Mick Schumacher and Robert Schwartzman. And with lights out just moments away, it's time to go down to the track.
Okay, here we go. I know what you can do. Don't let me down.
So here we are lining up in 2nd place on the grid for the Spanish Grand Prix. A wet Spanish Grand Prix, mind you. So certainly going to have an interesting race on our hands. Of course, Leclerc beat us in qualifying. The only driver to beat us. He gets pole position, and yes, it could be very interesting heading into turn 1, because I can tell you now, neither of us will want to let the other one through into first out of that first corner. We got our old teammate Carlos Sainz here in 3rd place for his home Grand Prix. So we'll see if he tries to be a bit of a sparrow in the works in the other Audi engined team on the grid. Ricciardo, unfortunately, not doing too well in qualifying. He's down in P8, so hopefully he can make some spots up at the start of the race. Because, yeah, considering we have the best car on the grid, pretty much alongside Ferrari, I'd say, because obviously car performance chart in Season 3 isn't overly accurate, I think. It sort of starts to get a little wacky, but it's sort of close, so it gives you a rough idea. But I'd say it's ourselves and Ferrari that are the fastest car on the grid, and at the moment Leclerc and I are representing that, and Vettel and Ricciardo are a bit further down. So hopefully, as 5 red lights go out, we can prove to be the faster of the 2 drivers out of ourselves and Leclerc. But it is a horrible start for us off of the line. Just had absolutely no traction, so Leclerc's going to go into turn 1 completely uncontested. We're down to 5th. We're going to sweep around the outside of Hamilton and Perez there to get back into 3rd place. But unfortunately, our former teammate Carlos Sainz has made it into 2nd. So we've got a bit of work ahead of us if we want to even just get up to Charles Leclerc now to challenge for the race win as we head into turn 3. Ricciardo going for a move on both Red Bulls. There's 3 wide between the 2 Red Bulls and our teammate there. Ricciardo gets ahead of Perez, but unfortunately for our teammate, Verstappen's able to sweep back in front into 5th. But nice move from Ricciardo there to try and make up some positions further down. Vettel versus Lando Norris. Lando has been struggling in the last couple of rounds. He finished P9 last time in Portugal, and he's again now in P9 here in Spain. So for the reigning world champion, he certainly seems to be struggling a little bit. I'm not too sure what the deal is there, because you can see Sainz doing very well at the moment in P2 at his home Grand Prix. So yeah, hopefully we can try and challenge Sainz. But yeah, very mysterious what's happening with the reigning world champion as we head on to lap 2. You can see closing in on the back of our former teammate. Obviously we have the same engine, both of us in Audi powered cars, as we head into turn 1, deeper under brakes than Sainz, and that is the move done there through turn 1 into P2. And now we've got a 1.5 second gap to close down before we can close in on Charles Leclerc, our title rival so far this season. And I certainly feel like we've got a quick car. It was just sort of unfortunate in qualifying. Leclerc was able to pull away. But just to sort of demonstrate how wet the track is at the moment. You can see we've got Lance Stroll here in on lap 3 into turn 3, and he just loops it and spins out into the gravel. So shame there for Lance. Aston Martin really struggling so far this season. I'm not really too sure what happened, but they need to turn themselves around. Yeah, they've just have something very fundamentally wrong with that car after that aero change going into this season. But you can see here at the end of lap 3, start of lap 4, we have closed in on Charles Leclerc. The gap is now half a second, so we've closed in 1 second in the last couple laps. But it is a lot easier to catch someone here in Spain than it is to pass them. But going to go through a little order here, a little order check. We've got Sainz 3rd, Hamilton 4th, Verstappen in 5th, our teammate Ricciardo in 6th, so he's made up a couple spots from the start. Hopefully he can make up a couple more. Vettel is in 7th in that other Ferrari, ahead of the reigning world champion Lando Norris, who's down in P8. Zhou Guanyu in the other Mercedes in P9 at the moment. He's certainly lost some confidence after that spin in Bahrain, where he was looking pretty good. And then Fernando Alonso in the Alpine rounding out the top 10 there. Alpine certainly seem to be that team that is right on the fringes of the points, but yeah, with the grid being split as it is, with sort of the front half being a lot faster than the second half, yeah, it's sort of hard for Alpine to go any further than sort of 9th and 10th. But you can see here at the end, or sort of going into the end of lap 5 here, we are right on the back of Leclerc still, looking for a way through. You can see on lap 6, we're just not able to close in on the straights. That Ferrari is very quick in a straight line. I'm not sure if that's due to setup. I'd imagine it's maybe due to setup, because we're certainly quicker throughout the whole rest of the lap. It's just when it gets to the straight, which is really the only overtaking opportunity, we're not able to get close enough. But you can see through turn 3 here, able to get right on the back of the Ferrari. He goes defensive, so we're going to go to the outside. Very lucky not to make contact there. Got very close between ourselves and the Ferrari as we sweep around the outside of turn 4 to the inside of turn 5. Sort of try and hang him out wide a little bit there, and we do get into the lead of the Spanish Grand Prix. You can see Leclerc has to pull back in behind. So now we've just got to try our best to try and pull away from the Monegasque driver, but I doubt it's going to be easy. You can see the gap we've pulled to the rest of the field at the moment. We've got 3 seconds back to Carlos Sainz in 3rd. You can see here onto lap number 8, it's definitely an easier time for the Ferrari down the straight because we weren't able to get close, but Leclerc is able to get close enough to go for a dive into turn 1. We put him right on that inside white line, and we sweep around the outside of turn 1, have the inside for turn 2, but Leclerc sweeps around our outside there. He'll have the inside for turn 3, and we're just not able to hold it around the outside there as we try and get a bit of a cut back. So Leclerc is again going to go a little defensive, but not enough as we dive down the inside of turn 4. We're going to go side by side with our title rival here. This is some great racing in the web, very clean between the both of us, I will say. So yeah, very nice to have a tough fight, but a clean fight as we lose the rear end there, as I had to make a little correction because I thought for a second Leclerc was going to come out and knock our front wing, give us damage, but yeah, a little bit of a miscalculation by me there, and that we have allowed Leclerc back into the lead. So as we now head down the back straight, obviously no DRS here because it is pouring with the rain. We're going to go for a dive into the 3rd sector around the outside as Leclerc goes defensive. Again, they're making a little correction to make sure we don't make contact as we straight around the outside of the fast left-hander. We'll have the inside for the right-hander here. We're still side-by-side. This is almost a whole lap of side-by-side racing action between the two of us. It's allowed Sainz to catch up back to us. You can see he's within a second now, when it was 3 seconds last time when I was telling you, but you can see we did get the lead there. And on lap 11, pretty much everyone except for Leclerc and myself is going to come in here. Sainz has stayed out, and a few other drivers have stayed out, but this is the first lot of pit stops here, and everyone's going to be pitting onto another set of intermediate tyres. It is predicted to go a bit drier later on in the race, but unfortunately for everyone here, no one is able to really go long enough to get to that dry period on the one set of intermediate tyres. But as we head on to lap number 12 now, you can see Leclerc, Sainz and Ricciardo in, same with Zhou Guanyu. And actually, interesting to note, we're the only driver that's gone that extra lap. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that affects us in the standings, if we've gained or lost time with this overcut here. As we pit in on lap 13, we've got 22 seconds to Charles Leclerc behind us. And then you can actually see Hamilton got ahead of Sainz in that pit stop phase. So Hamilton did get an undercut on Sainz, and he was able to get ahead. So it'll be interesting to see if Leclerc's able to get ahead of us here. You can see nice clean pit stop. Doesn't take us too long as we head into the pit exit here. And we are actually quite a bit ahead of Charles Leclerc. So I don't know if he had a bit of a slow stop or what's going on there, but we have been able to get out with about, by the time it evens out, we had a 1 second lead on Leclerc. But you can see he very quickly caught onto the back of us here as we head on to lap number 18 now. The Monegasque driver, again, right on the rear of our car. We're going to try and go a bit defensive here. Leclerc's going to go to the outside. Who's going to have the better grip here on these fresh tyres? We have the inside for turn 1, outside for turn 2. Can we do what Leclerc did to us? I'm going to try and hold the outside. Now we'll have the inside for turn 3. But Leclerc was just a little bit further up, so he's able to hold the outside line through turn 3 there. And we have to drop back to second now here on lap 18 and get ready and sort of prepare ourselves to try and make a move on lap 19 possibly. You can see here on lap 18 though, DRS is enabled, so the FIA thinking the track is dry enough for DRS, so this could certainly spice up the racing a little bit here, but I'm not too sure if it's ready yet for the dry tyres. It's still a little slippery. We do get a strategy option from Jeffy. You can see to pit next lap on lap 19. We're going to be doing 2 more stops onto the softs, then the mediums. But yeah, like I was saying, it's a little too wet to pit, so Jeff has said the same. We're going to go for 1 more, although Leclerc comes into the pit lane, and no, it's not just Leclerc either. Every single driver, and I'm not exaggerating here, every single driver except for us has come into the pit lane here on the end of lap 18. You can see on the leaderboard there, no positions changing until, of course, now when everyone starts pulling into their pit bays. And that's because, yeah, no one else has gone around for another lap. It is literally just ourselves. Even the Ferrari's double stacking here. Here's Ricciardo coming in as well. So they sent us for another lap, but Ricciardo's been brought in, which is really weird considering we're the ones fighting for the lead of the race. But everyone going on the soft, so everyone's on the same 2-stop strategy there. You can see there's an AlphaTauri that's actually going around for another lap, but he's so far back it doesn't really mean anything. As you can see, we've set a purple first sector there. Obviously, the track being very dry now. But here we go, on the end of lap 19 now. And the gap's only 17 seconds this time around to Leclerc. If you remember the last round of pit stops, it was 22 seconds, and we only came out about a second ahead. And now the gap being 17 seconds, we're going to come out behind. In fact, we're probably going to come out behind Hamilton as well. Probably going to come out in P3 ahead of Sainz there, because there's a pretty big gap between Sainz and Hamilton due to all the sort of traffic flow issues with everyone coming in the pit lane at the same time. But you can see, there they go. Hamilton and Leclerc are completely gone. We are going to come out in P3. You can see there's yellow flags. I believe it's Mazepin retiring in the Aston Martin there. And we've got a 4.5 second gap to close into Leclerc, pretty much 3 seconds to Hamilton here, and we've got 13 laps to go in this Grand Prix, so a massive strategy blunder here by our team to make us go that extra lap. But you can see the end of lap 21 here, we're going to set the fastest lap of the race by almost a second over Leclerc. We are flying at this point. We fly past the Mercedes of Lewis Hamilton into P2 with enough time to pull back onto the racing line for the braking zone of turn 1. And the gap to Leclerc now only 2 seconds. Like I've already said, we seem to have a bit more pace than the Ferraris. It's just about trying to get ahead of a car and trying to make an overtake around this track. But things get a bit more difficult. You can see on the end of lap 22 there, start of lap 23, we set the fastest lap once again, just to showcase again how much pace we have. And we got to about 1.3 seconds to Leclerc before we have to come in for our second pit stop here. You can see almost running into that outside wall into the pit lane entrance. I was just pushing that hard to try and close in to the Ferrari as much as I can, because you can see there's only 6 laps remaining here in the Spanish Grand Prix. So if we want to close in and catch Leclerc, we're going to have to do it quickly, and we're going to have to hope for a nice quick pit stop here. As is it going to be a good pit stop? On go another set of soft tyres, 2.4 seconds, not bad. What is the gap to Leclerc? It was 1.3 seconds when we came into the pit lane. We have to wait until we're in pit exit before we can see what the new gap is. It says 1.6 seconds. But that's not completely accurate yet. You have to wait a few seconds for it to go down. And it is actually going to be 1 second to Leclerc. So we were able to close in 3/10 in the pit stop there, which is very good. And you can see here, the end of lap 28, we are right on the back of our title rival now as we go on to lap 29. Fastest lap of the race again by less than a tenth. We go down the inside and we are ahead of Charles Leclerc, back onto the racing line for the braking zone of turn 1. And we are into the lead of the Spanish Grand Prix despite that massive blunder from our team in that pit stop phase from the wet to dry track period. So, yeah, very lucky. We just have to now try and make sure we can hold off Leclerc, because again, catching and passing is one thing, but trying to pull out of that DRS zone from another fast car is very difficult. You can see as we go on to lap 31, Leclerc is still right behind us. He's going to go to the outside as we get defensive into turn 1, but he's completely cleanly ahead of us by the time we get into the braking zone. So we've got 2 laps now to again try and find our way ahead of the Ferrari as we head through turn 3, trying to close in. We're now going to go to the end of lap 31, onto lap 32, and it's pretty much just the same thing except the roles being reversed. Leclerc goes defensive, we go to the outside, we're completely ahead before the braking zone, and so now we're into the lead of the Spanish Grand Prix with 2 laps to go. So yeah, a little chopping and changing going on here with Leclerc. We've got a massive gap to Hamilton, 7.5 seconds as we head out of the final corner now onto the final lap of the Grand Prix. Leclerc has DRS on us, so we're going to have to give it everything we've got if we want to win this Grand Prix. Here comes Charles Leclerc down towards turn 1. You can just see him approaching in our mirror there, and as we get towards turn 1, he's going to put his nose in and dive to the inside. A great move from Leclerc, very brave on the brakes in that Ferrari. We're going to go side by side through turn 1, 2, and now 3, but Leclerc pulls ahead, so we've now got this last remaining lap to try and find another position to overtake. Obviously, we've only been overtaking into turn 1 so far because it's the easiest place to do it, and really the only place unless you have massive car speed over the other driver. So if we want to get into the lead of the Grand Prix, we're going to have to do it somewhere we haven't really done it before. So we're just following the Ferrari around at the moment, trying to keep as close as possible. Obviously, dirty air making that very difficult as we head through the fast right-hand sleeper. You can see we're almost running into the gravel there. We've got DRS, and if we want to win this race, we're just going to have to send it like we did in Imola on Leclerc to the inside of the hairpin. We go side by side, and we've made the move stick on Charles Leclerc to get into the lead, very similar to Imola. How on the last lap we have to dive into the chicane there. This time we've done it again in Spain at that hairpin heading into Sector 3 as we head through the final couple corners now. Somehow, against all the odds, everything's worked against us. We are going to win here in Spain.
To whom it may concern, have that.
Superb driving. That's the race win.
They've done it then. A spectacular victory here in Spain and a massive confidence boost going into the next race. Tell me, Ant, how did they manage to achieve this win?
Well, time management probably played quite a large role in the outcome of this one. As ever, it's not just about speed, it's all about maintaining that speed consistently over a stint, over a race distance. So being able to keep up the lap times while still being smooth on the controls and gentle on the tyres, that's really where the race was won today.
A show-stopping performance from the 3 drivers approaching the podium right now. It's been an interesting Grand Prix, that's for sure.
Oh my word, what a race we had here in Spain. Somehow we came out on top against our title rival Charles Leclerc and the Ferrari. That was an insane race, very close, tight racing, clean racing, that entire 33 laps, and somehow we were able to come out on top. I can't believe that send into the hairpin actually worked. You can see here are the results for the race where we came out on top ahead of Leclerc. Hamilton ended up in P3, Verstappen 4th, Sainz 5th, Vettel 6th. Our teammate Ricciardo ended up down in 7th, so another disappointing race there for our teammate again, considering we supposedly have the fastest car on the grid. Zhou Guanyu in P8, Norris the reigning champion in 9th, and Alonso rounds out the top 10 there. In terms of the drivers' standings, we're now within 1 race win worth of points of Charles Leclerc, 19 points off the championship lead. Verstappen in 3rd, Ricciardo right down in 9th still, a couple points off Perez and a few points ahead of Zhou. So yeah, I just can't quite grasp what isn't working for Ricciardo here. But yeah, coming into the constructor standings, you can see we're in P2 again. We've overtaken Red Bull, 41 points off of Ferrari. So yeah, if we want to win the Constructors this season, in our final season on this year's game, we're either going to need Ricciardo to step up and start getting some decent results, or we're going to have to think about replacing him about the halfway point of the season. But that is all for this episode. We're in Azerbaijan next, so if you guys did enjoy, make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you want to see more content like this in the future. And I'll see you all next time. Goodbye.